I'm Colleen, and I sort of fell into a career 3D printing things completely accidentally. So I graduated from college 2.5 years ago, and it was the middle of like big part of the recession. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, who's hiring product designers? So I just sort of started making some like 3D printed jewelry for art shows, and I put it up on the internet, and people really liked it. And I was able to quit my horrible web design and SEO job because people wanted to buy 3D printed jewelry, and that was making me more money than making people websites. So here I am speaking to you guys today. So I think a lot about topic of my talk is what are we gonna make in the future. And I think a lot about what we're going to make in the future because I also think a lot about what we've made in the past. So I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and Atlanta is a pretty new city. It's like parts of the city are just old enough for us to notice like, oh, they're kind of old. So I live in this old car factory that's been turned into loft apartments, and I really mainly picked it because it had big windows. And it's actually ended up being a really cool place to live because, as I've started this career of 3D printing things, I kind of reflect like, oh, things used to be made here, and for a long time they weren't again. I also live across along this old rail line that it used to carry goods and things around the city, transporting them around the country. And now it's been turned into a bike lane. So we've gone from a car city and we're moving to having bike lanes around the city. And so I live in very close proximity to these two really old things, well, relatively old, that are now new things. So I think a lot about this. So it's like these are only 100-year-old objects that we've already reappropriated into new things. So I think a lot about that. Like, so what are we going to make in the future? Because we're already changing what we made in the past. So my business is called Wearable Planter. It's all this 3D printed jewelry that lets you carry around a little plant. So I can show you guys some afterwards if you're interested. I've brought a bunch of pieces with me. So I just sort of started out with this idea. Like, it came out of this project that I had in school of we have all these materials that we make things out of, and we don't always use them. We have these perceptions of materials that don't always fit with their material properties. So we have plastic things that are disposable. Plastic lasts for thousands of years before it biodegrades, and we make plastic bags and water bottles out of them. So I sort of wanted to make something of heirloom quality out of plastic, because that's what most of 3D printing is now. So I just sort of was like, I want to make something of heirloom quality out of plastic, and just started making things from there. Sorry, I have to reference my notes now. So really making things out of 3D printing just sort of started out of this like laziness that I had. I was like, well, how am I going to make things out of plastic? And I just sort of fell into it. I was like, oh, I can 3D print stuff. 3D printing, how many people know about 3D printing already? Okay, so the good majority of you. So it's actually a technology that's been around for about like 25 years, and we're only just starting to like really know about it on the consumer level. So before that, it was really only available like at schools, at universities, and big engineering firms would have it. And within the last 5 years, we've sort of like hit this like sort of node of knowledge where we're starting to know more about it. And that's really cool. It's changing the way that like how we make things. And it's bringing this power of making things back to people that we haven't had since the Industrial Revolution. Where we used to make things at home, then we went to making things at factories. Now we can sit on our computers and make things that we want on our own and then print them out at home. So the technology is changing a lot. You have MakerBots. You can make things at home if you want, or you can send it off and have someone else make it for you. And that's like a power that we've lost. We can now make stuff for ourselves. And it's amazing. So like, what are we going to make in the future with it? You have these great communities springing up online. Like you have this website called Thingiverse. So now you can make things. You can upload the file that's just a collection of thousands of triangles, and you can make these objects that other people have designed, and you can make them for yourself. So we're coming to this. We're also sort of reverting back to other people making things for us with the same technology, but we're really moving forward. Now we can make stuff on our own again, and that's really exciting. It's revolutionary. Also, I mean, I'm really excited about, sorry, I forgot where I was on my notes. Yeah. Okay, so we're going from a stage where things were made in factories and they were shipped around the world, and now we're going to be able to make things at home again. And it's got really good environmental implications. Like, there's just less waste, there's less transit costs associated with it. So I guess I want to talk about another way that I'm excited about it. We can also bring back things from the past. One of my current projects is I found this really tacky teacup a few years ago at an antique store. It had this really great form, and it just really drew me to it. But it also had these like tacky little butterflies on it. So I really have always like just sort of been fascinated by this teacup, and I just used it to throw my keys in, and it broke a few months ago. And so it's sort of this nostalgia for this little thing I owned. But what I was able to do is I was able to rebuild the shape of it digitally, and now I've 3D printed them. And so, like, what are we going to make in the future? We can make things that we saw in the past that we really enjoyed. And we can bring back to life things that we sort of forgot about with it too. So, and I'm also really excited about 3D printing because it gets us to bring back sort of like silly ideas. So if you have an idea, like there's people making memes into 3D printed objects. So you can just sort of make silly things, and we've lost that ability. But now that we have the internet, we can share that with people. Okay, so does anyone know how 3D printing works amongst people who know about 3D printing? Okay, a smaller contingent. So what it is you have a 3D file that you've made in CAD software, and so you make this file, and up until recently, like it was really hard to learn about this, and it was really inaccessible. So what happens is you have your file, and then you have a machine that builds it up layer by layer by layer out of plastic, and it's really exciting. You get to see, if you've ever watched a 3D printer, it's really awesome because you see things building up as it's like they're growing into their shape. And that's... Oh yeah, there's laser kinds too. Okay, so the laser kinds, so there's a few different types of 3D printing. There's FDM, which is building up layer by layer of plastic, but there's also, you can put down layers of a powder, and then a laser comes in, and builds it up the same way, it fuses it together. So, I don't know, we've never made things like that before. Like, everything's always been, it's an additive process where it's either like crocheting or knitting, or it's subtractive, like imagine like marble being chipped away. So we're bringing in this new additive process where we control it with machines and control it by ourselves. There was a nice little ice cream truck noise there. I don't know, it kind of describes the magic of it. So I'm really excited about it. People are always going to want to make things. I'm really glad that I was able to sort of just fall into making things as my job, because that's all I've ever wanted to do is just make stuff. Not really even with a purpose, but so yeah, I don't think in the future that we're going to 3D print everything. Right now, most of the people that are 3D printing are stuff like people like myself who are making jewelry, making other little trinkets that are more sort of novelty goods. But we're also moving to this place where it's becoming more well known. Nike's making shoes with 3D printed soles, so it's getting to be a technology that more people know about and use. It's more efficient in the way if you just want to make one thing. And I really want to see this future where if we only need to make one of something, we don't need to make 10,000 of them like we've had to in the past. So what are we going to make in the future? I don't really know, honestly. No one really knows what kind of things we're going to make in the future. I think I know how we're going to make it. We will make it some things with traditional manufacturing processes like injection molding. But we'll make more things with 3D printing. Sorry, I keep having to look at my notes. So we're going to make more stuff. I hope we will actually make less stuff than we do now, because we all have lots of stuff that we don't really need. we're gonna still, I don't know, I sort of lost my train of thought there. But anyway, yeah. I just imagine this future where we'll all have a 3D printer in our home, able to make things. Yeah, I brought stuff. Okay, show and tell. Okay, so this is the tacky little teacup that I found. So it's got a really cool form. And what I tried to do was, it has a really cool form, but it had these like ugly little butterflies all over it. So I really wanted to make a new one after I broke the original. And so what I did was I scanned it, and that didn't work. Because we're not quite there with 3D printing scanning technology yet. And I was able to rebuild it. And I printed this on a MakerBot, and you can see that it's not really perfect, which also kind of gives you some of the limitations of the technology right now. But yeah, like how cool would it be in the future if you just saw something that you really liked, and you were like, hey, I want one of those. You were able to make your own without having to go to the store. You just make it. So I really hope that we just have a future where we're able to make things that we care about more, and we're able to make just one of them. We don't have to make so many of them and transport them thousands of miles. So I'll pass this around.
Did you print the handle and the cup out of one solid piece?
Yeah, it was all printed one solid piece. So that thing was all basically one big string of plastic goo that was sort of formed into its shape from there.
I don't really know much about 3D printing. So do you yourself make a model and then you feed that into the scanner and then the computer reproduces it for you, and that's how that works?
Okay, so there's two ways that you can make a 3D printed object. So you can either scan them, which is a new technology that's developing, and you can also make it from like a CAD software. So I use SolidWorks, and you can build it up from there using the geometries.
Okay, so you don't physically design something, you design it in the computer and then...
Yeah, so it's made from a collection of triangles, basically, that are made in the computer.
And then are you just selling the physical products that you're printing, or are you also selling the designs that you're making to people who have access to the technology to do it themselves?
Selling the physical objects, yeah.
Do you have that like in your business plan for the future to sell the models that you're making?
I don't know yet, honestly. Okay, so anyway, to wrap everything up, I don't know what we're going to make in the future. Nobody can know. I think we're going to make more things with 3D printing, and I hope that we only make things that are meaningful to us.